I believe in God. I believe God created all of this, and that until man begins to mess with it, it's as clear an imprint of what God has given us, straight from Him. And so the idea in my book series, Wild or Good,
Amen.
You know, there's a good kind of wild and a bad kind of wild. And the bad kind of wild is what we don't want our kids to be. But the good kind of wild is the kind of wild that's all around us, is the kind that God made. And that has His goodness and His nature and His fingerprints on all of that. And so I want to fill my life with as much of that as possible. There's something I've thought about when you're out here in the wind, in the sky, in the grass, that there's kind of a trance comes over you. There's a resetting that comes over you. And I want as much of that in my life as possible. I need to be reset to creation, reset to beauty, and I don't know any other way that happens the way it does when you're in wild places. And so I want my kids to be exposed to that. I want my life to be a reflection of that, and that's what comes out in the things I write. This monarch I hit with a car, and we love monarchs, and I broke the front part of his wing, and he couldn't fly and was going to die, so we put some tape on there, and his wing is working. We're not sure if he's going to fly, but we've been feeding him all week. If he doesn't fly, technically this generation of butterfly lives for about 7 months. So I just wonder if we could overwinter him all winter at our house. When you write, you're inspired. If something inspires you to write, and those are just, you know, my experiences in the outdoors. You know, in that outhouse over there, I went out there at 5 o'clock in the morning one morning to go to the bathroom, and there was a rattlesnake in the hole. Well, that's pretty funny, and that's pretty exciting. And so, you know, people like to read about funny and exciting. So I don't know if I pulled off funny and exciting, but those kind of things in nature, surprises happen all the time. And so as an author, you're just looking for those. My mentor, John Erickson, he's written 76 books about dogs. And you think, well, how do you write 76 books about dogs? Well, I went and hung out with him for a weekend 20 years ago, and I realized how he did it. He has 3 dogs on his porch that do stupid things all day. Well, there's your books. You spend time in nature, you spend time around your source material, and those stories just show up. I mean, life is incredibly interesting. I guarantee there's a book somewhere in a monarch with a wounded wing. I don't know where it is right now. I don't know if that'll show up with a book, but you know, having this miracle of nature that gets wounded, and then humans get in there and clumsily try to fix it and probably fail. Somewhere there's a good story in that. Those stories are all over creation. My kids are all over the books. The first reason they're in the books is everything I write, I read to them first. And if they don't think it's any good, I've got to really second guess it. It keeps me also from writing, you know, if a writer gets tempted to put in maybe something that's sexualized, or maybe some rough language, you read it to your kids first, and a lot of that stuff comes right out. And your story doesn't get weaker, your story gets better. So they're my first editors for sure. But everything they do shows up in the books. It's, I guess, probably secrets between us and them, but my son, he had to strip down to his underwear and ride my horse Fancy for a scene, for an illustration in the last book. And so, yeah, my kids are all over what happens in the books, whether they want to be or not. Every series ends at some point. And so when the author runs out of ideas and people stop buying the books, I guess that's when the series ends. I don't know, but you hope you get a good idea. And the ideas I go with are what's really interesting to me at that moment. And I've always loved to read. You know, when you spend time in the outdoors, there'll be something new that comes across that really captures your interest. The last book was about generations changing hands. You know, how do you respect the older generation and the younger generation begins to take its place? How do you do that? I mean, I'm still figuring that out, but a book is an exploration of that. And so I guess just the next thing that really fascinates me is what is kind of a theme, and then somehow something happens in nature and it just clicks and you start saying, oh, well, that's the story. And you know, it may not be good. Writers write terrible things all the time. You know, I've written a lot of terrible things, but you keep trying, and eventually, you know, something comes together. There's no place I'd rather be than right here, with my wife and kids and family in the outdoors. I'm just I've been very, very fortunate, you know, to have a piece of land, to have a little cabin, to have a place where we can just listen to the wind all day, watch the monarchs over there on the cowpen daisies. That's all I need. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that, to raise my kids out here, so I'm very thankful.